Hello, buenos dias, and happy Thursday. Welcome back to the Women Who podcast. I am here, Janelle, sitting with my dear friends, Andrea and Genevieve Genoveva. How are we today?
No one calls me that anymore. Actually, my husband calls me that when he's mad at me.
That's awesome. That's the best way to call you.
I'm good. I'm
Pregnant.
uncomfortable peeing every 5 minutes, but I'm good.
Yeah. So we're here to talk about Genevieve and her. Give us a little bit of your background and where you started in your business, because right now we are promoting your business through Women Who. Mm-hmm. So give us a little backstory on that.
So my name is Genevieve. I own private label. I've had my business for 8 years now. And it's basically a one-stop shop for women. I now specialize in custom clothing. Before, I was more of like a boutique style. But really after COVID, I stopped doing boutique style women's clothing, fast fashion, and I primarily focus on custom clothing for women. So if you have a wedding or really any special occasion where you need something that you don't get at a normal store, that's what we do.
Right. And you also rent out space.
I do. I have a couple of tenants. I have a masseuse in the back. She's amazing. And then half of my store is rented out to somebody that sells lightly used or never been worn luxury goods. So clothing, handbags, shoes, accessories, you name it. We are really a one-stop shop.
Yeah, that's awesome. You and I go way back.
Yes.
I used to take pictures of Genevieve when she was a wee little baby.
And she's weirdly introduced me to any of my boyfriends or ex-boyfriends or now current husband. So she's a matchmaker for me.
Yeah. So just a little backstory on, well, congratulations, obviously, on baby number 3. Three. Yeah. So can you kind of tell us, your story on your pregnancy journey?
So I started trying for a baby like 2 years after we got married, or a year and a half, I should say. And my first pregnancy, I did have a miscarriage. The first 2 pregnancies, I did have miscarriages. And I feel like they took away like the excitement, because by the time I actually had my son, I was just nervous the whole pregnancy because I already went through 2 losses, and it's not something that you get pregnant and think is even going to happen to you to begin with. No one talks about it. So for that to happen to me and to have unknown answers as to why it was happening, it was just making me really nervous. Am I ever going to have kids of our own? So it wasn't easy. I went to IVF doctors who told me you don't qualify. We did 30 tests, a bunch of blood tests. My husband got his test done, and they're like, you guys are perfectly fine. There's really no explanation for why this is happening. But if you don't get pregnant in a year, we'll do IVF. Yeah. Luckily, a month later, after all that testing, it didn't happen, and I ended up having my son.
Yeah.
So
does it affect you now, like the nerves about this pregnancy?
No, because I have now 2 healthy boys. So I'm nervous just because this one
can always happen.
Yeah, this one almost was another miscarriage in my mind.
Wow.
Tests and ultrasounds have been fine, but in the beginning I was bleeding a lot. And I didn't have that before.
Has your other pregnancies been like healthy? Have they?
Yes, super perfectly normal, healthy pregnancies.
What was the reason behind the bleeding? Did they tell you or no?
They said it was normal, but it was like clots, like a lot, like
so
a lot
scary.
of bleeding. Yeah,
so very scary.
In my last ultrasound at 12 weeks, I was crying before I went in because I thought I had miscarried a couple of days before, and I couldn't go to the ultrasound sooner because my son had salmonella, and we were admitted to the hospital for 2 days. So I missed my appointment. No, this was Zane when like 2 or 3 months ago.
Zane is number 2.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and what's your first baby's name?
Xander.
Xander
And Zane. And it's cute because now he talks complete sentences. So he says, my name is Xander Windvillar. So he walks around everywhere saying that his name is Xander.
And do you have a baby for baby number 3 yet, or you don't want to say anything?
I have 2 names. It's both X's, but I don't know which one it's going to be.
Okay. So, what, I don't know if you want to ask.
No, go ahead.
What did you do to like cope with the miscarriages? Because I know it's very hard and like
Yeah.
women don't like to talk about it.
Yeah.
So
To cope, wouldn't say it was coping. I would say it was spending a lot of money on psychics to
Oh
be able
my
to tell me like if I'm gonna have kids or, you know, what was gonna happen. And I'm very like psychic-y myself. So during my miscarriages, I actually had dreams that I was gonna have miscarriages.
oh wow.
So in my third pregnancy, because I'm now on my fifth pregnancy, on my third pregnancy, when I actually had Xander, in that when I got pregnant, I did have a dream that the pregnancy was going to be fulfilled, and I was going to have him. So super weird, and all true stories. Every single time I've been pregnant, I've had a dream that I was going to be pregnant, and at the end of the dream, it told me whether or not it was going to happen or not. Like,
Well, I definitely believe in prophetic dreams.
yeah,
We all believe
Yeah.
in prophetic dreams. So I
Yeah.
mean, that's super powerful.
So I didn't cope with it well. Like
No.
the losses, I didn't cope with it well at all. I was contacting whoever could give me the answer to, yes, you are going to have kids.
So how did you like mentally just say, I want to try again?
I just did it.
You just did?
Like my husband had COVID and I was like, lay down. I don't care if you're like with a fever. I'm ovulating.
So you were ready, like you just wanted to jump right into it again.
I didn't care. I mean, I have a 2-year-old, a 1-year-old, and I'm 20 weeks pregnant. So
Yeah.
I'm just like, go.
Yeah. So you just, I know that when you were younger, we used to talk about, you were
Yeah.
16 when I met you. And you used to talk about that you wanted to have 7 kids.
Yeah.
And I was like, this girl is absolutely crazy.
And
There's no
my
way.
max now is 4.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, my husband's
You
like,
got one more to go,
already-
girl.
No, my husband says he's getting a vasectomy, and I'm like, okay, you get it. We live in almost 2025. I could reverse this. Like, it doesn't matter.
And
You
Drew's
go get
like,
it.
what did I get into?
Yeah, I don't care.
You're aiming for the girl?
Yeah, but I
Yes.
would do IVF at that point.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care what people say. Like, I don't care what God wants to give me another boy. I don't care. No, I'm doing
Yeah.
IVF. I'm paying for it.
Oh my gosh. So how did Andrew support you during this time and your family, your
He
mom?
was a great support, but Andrew's the kind of person where he doesn't get excited until the very end when
It's
he knows the
ready to happen.
baby's coming.
Yeah.
Because he's gone through a lot himself with his mom passing away when he was in high school. So
Right.
he is like I don't know how to describe it. He's like numb throughout the whole process, and I have to
Right.
be like, "Are you excited?"
Yeah.
And I get him. So yeah, he's good about it, but he just wants to make sure that I'm like mentally okay going through
Right.
it all.
Right. And so during that process, he wasn't, or like, let's say family. How about mom? How was your mom? How did she react? How did she help you cope with it? Even though I know you say you don't cope.
She
but,
wasn't concerned. She knew I was gonna have kids.
right.
But she didn't have like no one in my family had ever gone through miscarriages. My cousin, my mom, my aunt, no one had gone through miscarriages. So it wasn't something
This was
that
the
was
first in your family?
relatable to anybody. This was
Wow.
a first in our family. So she was just making sure that I was okay, taking all the vitamins that I needed to, going to the right doctors. Some doctors even diagnosing me with things that I didn't even have.
Wow.
Yeah, I had to go
That's
to a
also
hematologist.
scary.
That's like another thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So during my first pregnancy, I actually had to inject myself with a blood thinner. I forgot the name of it now.
I think I remember that.
I forgot the name of it. But I did have to do that. And it turns out in my second pregnancy that I didn't even need to do it at all because they misdiagnosed me.
Wow.
Yeah. And the bad part of the blood thinner, I was on the blood thinner and a baby aspirin. So it was double blood thinning. If I get into a car accident and it's a minor car accident, it could have been even worse because of how much medicine I was on and injecting myself with. And it's also bad for your bones. I can easily break a bone on these.
Yeah.
The things that they were giving me. So to have a baby is like, you think it's so easy. They would talk about like, you need to protect yourself
Yeah.
when you're younger. And it's actually so hard. Like these babies are miracles.
Yep. They are for sure. How early on did you find out that you
I
had
was
a
like 8
miscarriage?
weeks.
On both?
Yeah. The second one, we're getting really complex now. The second pregnancy, the miscarriage, I actually had, so the babies or people in general have 2 chromosomes, XX, XY. This baby had XYX. So that third chromosome was actually a tumor on the baby. It had a
wow.
heartbeat. It was cancer. And when I lost the baby, we had to make sure that my levels would go back down to 0. Because if they didn't, that meant that I now had the tumor. So that was a lot too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the first one was at 8 weeks that you found out?
Yes.
And then the second one was
I thought I
around
was
the same
10
time?
weeks, but the baby stopped growing at 8 weeks.
at 8 weeks.
And I had 2 DNCs, which
they removed.
I was going to ask you about the DNCs
Yeah.
because that's something that a lot of women don't talk about. They don't even know that that's what's going to happen because
I didn't know.
Right. Most
And
girls
this
get
is-
pregnant, don't
This
know
is during
that.
COVID. This
Yeah.
all happened during COVID. So I'm fighting out about my miscarriages with my husband not with me.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was really hard. It was
Yeah.
really, really like probably the worst time in my life
Yeah.
Right.
besides losing my grandmother. But yeah, it's not the DNC. I don't wish that on like anybody.
Right.
And DNC, for like people that don't know what it is, what
It's the surgery to remove and scrape out everything
so
from
it's
the
the
inside.
same as having like an abortion,
Yes.
basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not to say that abortion going because you DNC you're going in for that.
Right.
Miscarriage, I feel like I'm not taking the pain away from either situations,
Right.
but when you have a miscarriage and they're taking the baby out, you like know the baby was already
Right.
passed away inside you and you're
Exactly.
holding on to it until the surgery.
It's more of a connection.
It's like, yeah.
yeah. I agree
Yeah.
completely.
And just talking about it, I'm like,
I know.
and the only thing that has kept me like going now, this one almost being a miscarriage, I was like, I at least have my 2 healthy boys. So if this was a miscarriage again, I was like, okay. But luckily we're not there. We're 20 weeks and everything's good.
Do you think that Andrew, your husband, has been very like he doesn't like want to show too many emotions because he might be scared of
Connecting first.
1,000%.
Yeah. Yeah.
1,000%.
It's like a
Even
defense mechanism that he just
my first pregnancy with Xander, I had preeclampsia towards the end, so he was 4 weeks early, and I was C-section for that reason. And he was in the NICU for 3 weeks, and we were really suffering because what he was diagnosed with was nothing. It was just that his lungs needed a little bit more time to develop.
Right.
So they did that like outside in the NICU. But me as a first time mom, I just want to go home and take my baby home with me. And
Right.
instead we had to leave the hospital.
Yeah.
I stayed a day longer just to be able to be there.
right.
And it was hard going back and forth. I was miserable.
Yeah. How did that make you feel? Like first
I was
pregnancy?
a zombie.
Yeah. Like I mean, me as a mom, none of
was
my
like-
kids had to go to NICU, so
Yeah.
like I don't know how I would feel first baby, and then them have to take the baby to NICU.
I was like, what did
early
I do in my
C-section.
life? I was like, God, give me all the signs that he's going to be okay. I probably looked like a crazy person outside that hospital. I was in my hospital gown. Like, I don't know how many hours, 12 hours post C-section. I'm finding out what's going on with the baby. And I'm walking outside the hospital in my gown, like probably not wearing my underwear. Okay. I'm wearing like the postpartum stuff. And I have like my hospital slippers on. And I'm like praying outside out loud to his mom, to my grandmother, like everybody that I have upstairs to make sure that this baby's going to be okay. Cause I'm not a doctor. I don't know what's going to happen. And when I asked the doctor, is he going to be okay? They're like, well, we don't know.
Well, you basically had no faith in the doctors either, being that they were misdiagnosing you before.
Yeah. So I was like, oh God, everything ended up being okay. There was absolutely nothing wrong with him.
Right.
It just, he needed more time to cook.
Yeah.
But as a first time mom, you don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
So, or any parent really, the second baby, first baby, it's scary.
Yeah. I mean, especially coming after 2 miscarriages.
Yeah.
Like I feel like
And then my first newborn, I'm like,
being with all the complications towards the end is pretty crazy.
You mentioned, hold on, I want to actually backtrack because you mentioned losing your grandma being as one of the hardest things that you've ever had to experience. And I think that there's grief that comes obviously with losing a loved one, right?
Yeah.
I know that you say like you didn't really cope with it. You kind of just kept going and you were like, okay, like, but did you ever at one point did you feel grief towards those babies that weren't born? Like,
of course.
Like what was that grief process? Like how different is it from how you experienced it with your grandma?
It's not that different.
Yeah.
It's actually really hard. Like if I would see a rainbow, I'm like, okay, this is my baby. Like I would just try to, if I saw 1, like I always like related the baby that I lost to whatever I was seeing out in the universe. Like I said, I'm super psychic and super spiritual. So I started seeing things and I was like, oh my God. So it's not very different from losing a grandparent or somebody else. It's hard, especially knowing that you and your husband conceived this, you wanted this, and then you lose it. I mean, you go into the ultrasound thinking you're going to see a heartbeat and you're going to see like a little jelly bean or something. And then they tell you, no, we don't have a heartbeat. So it is really, 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 really hard.
Yeah.
Well, being a mom, the baby is connected to you. It's part of your body. So
and the
that's why
first
it's
baby
such
was
miracle.
a girl.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
No, wow.
The
I just
first
got
baby was a
goosebumps on that
girl,
one.
and my second one was a boy. So after that, my husband has only made boys, but the first one was a girl.
So there's still hope.
I don't know.
Come on, Andrew.
No, I've tried timing ovulation and nothing works.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
Yeah, there's a book on that. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting because I think that the grief part is the one thing that a lot of women don't talk about. The
Yeah.
grief that they've had to endure.
I think
with,
my
like,
husband thought I was like psycho in like those 2-year span of
Yeah.
losing them and then conceiving again and then losing again.
Yeah, I'm sure you didn't even realize it, but you were
And then
being different.
Once I got pregnant again with Xander and that was going to term, I was still calling psychics. I'm
my gosh.
serious. To like make sure that that pregnancy was going to be okay. I was like in a psycho state, I swear. And then anybody that has had a miscarriage is going to understand exactly what I'm going through.
Yeah.
It's
Well, that's why
hard.
we wanted you to talk about it because, like
Yeah.
I said, not a lot of people
Right.
want to talk about it.
Yeah.
So it's good to have someone
Yeah.
just share their feelings and be open about it. So then people are gonna be like, "Oh,
I think
felt the same
biggest
way."
advice, and it's like such a hard thing to actually do. It's easy to say, but when you're trying to conceive, even after a miscarriage, or if you've never been able to conceive, is just to like relax and not think about it. Like
Yeah.
the times that I've gotten pregnant have been in Vegas. I've been on a cruise, and then this one was right before a country concert. So like those are the times, and I wasn't like overly drinking. I was drinking my wine. I was relaxing. I was having a good time. But I know exactly when it's happened because it's when I've been the most relaxed. So you know you're ovulating, but you're not like, oh my God, I have to do it right this second, right in this position with my legs up and like all the crazy things that we do to conceive.
Right.
But it would just be to relax.
Yeah, that's what happens with a lot of women, that
Yeah.
they're just like
The
so
mind is
stressed
so
out with like
powerful.
trying to get pregnant that they end up not getting pregnant, and then when they least
Yeah.
expect it, that's when it usually happens. At
Yeah.
least from what
It
I
is
know
true.
from,
It's so true. It's
from
like
my friends.
I
Yeah,
hate having to say it because people that are trying to conceive
Yeah.
and it hasn't happened, they're like rolling their eyes.
right.
But it is true.
Because it's always in the
unfortunately.
back of their heads.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's the goal, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing that they want so badly. It's like,
Yeah.
obviously you're going to be thinking about it
Of course.
as much as you
So,
can. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. No.
Was there ever a moment where you were like okay with sharing about the miscarriages, like social media? I know that you're a big social media person
Yeah.
because you have your business and all that stuff. So.
I like to be private in a lot of aspects of my life, but I feel like the more relatable I have been, especially with talking about miscarriage, the business that I'm in, I deal with women all day and they tell me their stories as well. And after I posted, I got so many people reaching out to me because I did post about this pregnancy. And when I lost it, I also posted that I lost the baby. So I did have a lot of clients, a lot of people reaching out that, that happened to them too. So I wasn't uncomfortable having to do that and sharing my story.
And do you feel like that helped you, that you shared it and people came up
I
to
think
you?
so. I think in the big picture, in the beginning, it's kind of like when someone passes away, you don't really want people to talk about it maybe, or
Right.
like at a funeral, you're like over people hugging you. You're just like trying to go through your own emotions.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the same thing. But then in the big picture, I'm like, I'm glad I know everybody's story now because I knew I wasn't alone.
Right. Yeah. Because then other people were sharing, saying that
Yeah.
they had miscarriages too,
Yeah.
and that it's going to be okay, kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah.
So that, that's
And their
great.
own IVF stories.
Yeah.
So
So you were able to hear from other people
Yeah.
and their stories.
How
That's
old
awesome.
were you when you started to
I
try to
don't
have
know.
babies?
I'm 28.
Okay.
So what, 25? I
Yeah.
was
'Cause you had 'em
25.
back to back. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the reason I ask is because I think that there's also like a stigma where people think that it only happens to women as they get older. A lot of
Yeah.
people don't think that
No.
in your 20s
Yeah,
you're
Well, that
very
was another
prone
thing
to
that
that.
I was
Yeah.
thinking. I'm like, I'm a 25-year-old healthy woman. I've been active
always
my
worked out.
whole
Yeah,
life.
super
I'm
active.
super healthy person in general. I have no medical issues.
Right.
Thank God. So I was like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
yeah.
That's why I went to an IVF doctor. The doctors, my OB was telling me, you don't qualify to go there yet.
Yeah.
Like you need to have 3 losses. I'm like, after 1 or after
Wow,
5.
They make you have 3 losses. to
Yeah,
do
but I
that?
didn't care. I was like, I'm going.
That's crazy
Yeah.
though.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my
Like-
the IVF doctor, she's like, there's nothing wrong with you. If you don't get pregnant by next month, I'm going to give you Clomid,
Yeah.
which is, it helps you release more eggs when you ovulate
Wow.
and that you have more chances of multiples. So I was like, I want twins anyway. So I was like, bring it on. And
Which
then
is what a
that
lot of people
month-
do for IVF.
Yeah.
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 That month I got pregnant.
Wow.
So I guess when I relaxed, because I was in Siesta Key and I had a virtual consultation with her, and she told me in the virtual that if I didn't get pregnant, that she would give it to me. And we were in Siesta Key, and that's when it happened.
Yeah.
In Vegas.
Well,
after
remember, I
left.
did tell you when you were trying to get pregnant, and I told you when you stop thinking about it, you're
Yeah.
gonna get pregnant.
Yeah, but I'm sure I was eye rolling at you that whole time because I was like,
because it happened to me. I've never had a miscarriage, but it happened to me when
Yeah.
Wilson and I were trying to
Yeah.
have Eli. We
Yeah.
were like, we were so like by the book, like, oh,
yeah, no, you can't.
today
You just
we have to. And then it was just
fun.
like when I told them when we stopped thinking about it is when, because
Yeah.
it's like it stresses you out,
Yeah.
and it doesn't let your body work the way it's supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
So it's crazy. That's bizarre.
Yeah.
So, do you have anything that you would probably like say to someone that's currently going through the situation?
I would say I think my biggest mistake when you go to all these doctors, let's say if you're having the miscarriages or if you haven't conceived yet, just ask a lot of questions. Don't be just okay with what they're saying. Like if they diagnose you with something, let's say in my case, they were like super off and I didn't ask enough questions.
Right.
Yeah.
So I probably could have avoided things. So I would just say like do your own research as well as to why they're telling you something,
Right.
you know, and then just to relax when you're trying.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. And I think one of the other things, and it's somebody that I want to have on the podcast as well, a friend of mine from church. Another thing that a lot of women don't realize is that sometimes the man can be the problem. In this
Yeah.
case,
Yeah.
it
Yeah, 'cause
wasn't,
most-
right?
Of
Like,
course.
great.
No,
like,
no, my
thankfully,
husband, thank
you
God,
guys are
was
both
good.
healthy.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things that happen in a marriage
It's
where
true.
women have miscarriages or they can't get pregnant and they
Yeah.
don't realize that it's not really a them problem. It
Yeah.
might be their husband's. And
Yeah.
because there's no OBGYN for a man, right?
Yeah,
they're
they
not
automatically
going to
send you to IVF at this
right.
point.
And
Right.
they
crazy.
don't realize that a man also needs to go through some like tests
Yeah,
to
of
see
course.
what their testosterone levels are at,
Yeah.
to see what their sperms are like.
Yeah.
Because if they have unhealthy sperms, that they can't get you pregnant either. They may have weak sperms, they may have slow
Yeah.
sperms.
Yeah.
There's all these things that a lot of
Deforms,
women
there's deforms.
yes, that a lot of women will put the blame on themselves
Yeah.
and not know that sometimes it's
And
the man's
people
problem.
don't know this, but for anybody that doesn't know, a lot of miscarriages are because the sperm was not good. Did you know that?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
so
interesting.
let's say you have nothing wrong with you. So let's say my second miscarriage, the XYX that I had, that was because one of my husband's sperms was it's like a bad one.
Wow. Look at that.
That is,
So
well, that's kind of like what
We
she was
blame
trying to say.
ourselves and like, oh my
Yeah.
God, what did I
Right.
do? Did I
Yeah.
like do this? Did I drink wine? Like,
Right.
no.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's bizarre.
People
Yeah.
in France are still drinking wine and they're full term pregnant.
Yeah.
I just want to put that out there.
So you could drink your wine. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
I eat my fish and my raw tuna and stuff. So
While you're pregnant?
yeah, and my cold cuts.
Oh my gosh.
I used to do cold cuts
Listen,
too, but I
this
would
is
warm
my
it up.
third baby. Now with the listeria issue, I haven't, but before I was.
Yeah.
This is my third baby. I'm like more chill. I'm like my first pregnancy. I was like, I'm not eating that. I would go to Hillstone. It was my favorite tuna tartare. I'm like, I'm not touching that. Now I'll eat the whole thing by myself.
That's usually what happens. Well, a lot
Yeah.
of people say that by the third one, you're just
Yeah.
kind of like,
whatever. He's gonna
Well,
potty train himself.
the first one, you're like feeding them organic food and everything. And the third one,
no,
you're
I'm
like,
still about the organic, especially nowadays. God.
yeah, no,
Well,
I
it's
know.
good. At least the miscarriages now are not like affecting your
Now,
pregnancy.
now,
Yeah.
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 obviously.
The first pregnancy,
How far along are you with this one?
20
Yeah.
weeks.
Okay.
The first pregnancy towards the end, I'm crazy. I
know
don't know if
that.
you know.
I know that. I don't know
Towards
if you
the
know. I don't know
towards
if you
the
know.
end, I asked like God or the universe or whatever to if I was going to have something wrong at the end of my pregnancy. So actually, going back, let's backtrack. Selling Sunset, Maya, I don't remember her last name. She had a stillborn and we were like right around the same due date. So she had just had a stillborn and she posted about it and everything. So I wasn't even thinking about stillborn, but since I was close to my delivery date, I was like, oh my God, is something going to happen to me and the baby? So in that moment, I asked God if something was going to happen to me or the baby at the end, can he show me a snake in my dream? The next night, I dreamt of a snake and then I
wow.
ended up having preeclampsia.
Oh my goodness.
And I ended up having a NICU baby. So I don't know why I got into that topic, but I think what I was trying to say is that I was nervous in that pregnancy, in the first one.
Well, yeah, the first one. That's why I was saying
The first one after,
right
the miscarriages. Yeah. But after baby number 2 and now 3, I've been
so baby
more
number
calm.
2, you were more calm. And
Baby
then
number
now
2,
3, you're,
I relate my child being chill because I was chill.
yeah.
My first one is crazy because I think I was crazy. Yeah.
I was gonna say karma, but I say the same
probably,
thing about Eli,
probably.
but
I think my first one is like me, and my second one is like my husband. My husband is like super like namaste, like chill.
yeah, no,
I'm
we
like, I think opposites attract.
know. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
No, I think we're good. I think it's under 30 minutes. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us on our Women Who podcast.
thank you for having me.
Of course.